I can definitely feel the sense of safety and security, and I can feel the emotions in my gut kind of releasing.
And the good news for everyone listening is it's not possible to feel I'm not good enough. We feel feelings and we feel sensations. Our brains link them together, and now we know how to unlink them. And it's that easy.
Amazing.
I am Nick Rundlet, the host of the Sovereign Mind Method, where we rapidly clear people's toxic belief systems to unleash their true potential. And today's guest is Yasmina Ellins. And to me, Yasmina is the embodiment of a humble high achiever. Aside from being a polyglot speaking 7 different languages, Yasmina is a graduate of the real life business Hogwarts, aka Cambridge University, and an artist and a host of the Yasmina Ellins Show. She helps entrepreneurs and professionals build powerhouse networks so they can bring a world of opportunity to their doorstep. So, Yasmina, I'm extremely excited and grateful to have you on the show today, because this is actually not our first Sovereign Mind style of conversation, right?
Right. Yeah. I remember the last one we had was so amazing and so mind-blowing. And I'm just so honored for the introduction, by the way. Thank you so much. And it's so incredible for you to be sharing this gift with the world so that people are able to clear their own limiting beliefs, because it's such a powerful thing. And so many people think, like some people really resonate with the concept of limiting beliefs and other people don't. They're like, limiting beliefs, what are those? I am limitless. And but it is so true. We're run by all of these different beliefs in our lives, whether it's fear of failure, fear of success, fear of rejection, issues with relationships, love, self-esteem. So I think you're doing a really beautiful thing here, Nick, and I'm so honored and grateful to be a part of this journey.
Wow, I super duper appreciate that, Yasmina. And now that I'm out of the intro, I could just drop into like normal conversation tone. And I want to just touch on that before we begin. I've discovered a word that I think resonates with a lot more people than limiting belief. And the word is sense. Because when you ask the question, do you have the limiting belief that you're not enough? That passes through a filter of people's logical minds. And people go, no, I don't rationally believe that I'm not enough. But when you ask people, hey, have you ever had the sense that you're not enough? It bypasses just the rational and it goes into the emotions, the feelings. And a lot of people feel more comfortable saying, yeah, I've kind of struggled with that in a couple different areas for sure. I've had the sense that I'm not enough, which is, I think, a beautiful thing because it's a gateway for people to be more vulnerable and more authentic. So I just wanted to share that little language shift.
That's amazing. And I think it's beautiful as well, because when you say limiting belief, I think people's guards might go up. They're like, limiting belief, what? Yeah. But if you're saying like, have you ever felt this way? Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever sensed this or sensed that? That's a very human thing. And I think humans on all levels can relate to that. So I know that you're a master of language, and language is very, very important. So that's a beautiful shift in language there.
Yes, thank you so much. And the whole purpose of the Sovereign Mind Method in this style of conversation is to identify what these senses are that are holding us back and keeping us constricted in our lives, and quite literally turn them into nonsense. And so paint the picture, Yasmina, of what senses did you want to play with today? What are you looking to move through and release?
So I think both fear of failure and fear of success. And I think it's so interesting to explore that antithesis, because people are afraid of failing because they're like, oh, what will people think? There's some kind of a reputational thing. There's an ego thing. There's it's just like, there's so much pressure to like succeed. And so then there's the fear of failure, but then the antithesis of failure is success. But then people also fear success because then they're like, oh, well, what do I like, what happens when I'm successful? What do I do now? What's the next step? There's so much uncertainty. And I think that can lead to these different cycles of self-sabotage. And I've definitely experienced both of these. And I think when you can let go of resistance to failure and resistance to success, things can really take off.
Yeah, I so agree. And self-sabotage has been a major pattern in my life. And the fear of success was a layer that I had to clear. And the good news is it actually can, in fact, be cleared. So let's my sense is let's begin with the fear of failure. I'm curious, where does that show up for you? What does it feel like emotionally? And then we'll try to hone in on like, what are the specific beliefs? What's the language that makes the most sense to you when it comes to fear of failure?
Right. I think what comes up for me is that, I grew up in a very high achieving environment where it was kind of expected that I would be successful. It was expected that I would do well. It was expected that I would go to a good school, that I would do well in exams. A is for average, B is for bad, all that kind of stuff. And just, I felt like I grew up in this environment where success was expected, which is not a bad thing at all. I think it's great that people can push people to do amazing things. But at the same time, I think it definitely left a residue of like, oh, I can't fail. I can't do badly on an exam, because if I do badly on an exam, then my whole future is negatively affected. My whole future is ruined, because if I don't get, 10 A stars in my GCSE exams when I'm 16, then I'm not going to be able to get into Oxford or Cambridge or Harvard or Yale and the big universities. And if I can't get into a huge successful university, then that's going to affect my future career prospects, which is going to affect my family and and you go into these like cycles of future looping of how in the future things are going to be messed up because I failed and everything is ruined. And so that I think a lot of my fear of failure comes around that kind of stuff.
That makes quite perfect sense to me, Yaz. Thanks for sharing. So I'm going to take a little, pause here to just speak to the audience and train you guys on a very useful skill, which is how do you test if a belief is present inside of your system? And what happens when you speak language that makes no sense to you out loud, that's quite literally nonsense, is you just chuckle at it. So Yasmina, I invite you to take a deep breath, and at the top of your breath, just say, failure means my future is full of flowers.
Okay. I can't take this seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
This
right.
is so funny.
Right.
I love it.
Right. Just go ahead.
Failure means my future is full of flowers.
Right. And notice how that's silly. And it's silly because it's nonsense. But what happens, Yaz, if you test failure means my future is ruined?
Right. Failure means my future is ruined.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Do any like sensations happen in your body?
I feel this like almost tightness in my stomach or my gut, but then I can also feel that there's resistance there. There's resistance that's covering something beneath it, but there's this like, there's this feeling of sort of gentle tightness.
Can you tap into that feeling of resistance and just welcome it with curiosity and ask it, hey, resistance, I'd love to know, what are you trying to tell me?
You want me to say that?
Yeah, you can say it in your mind's eye, or you can say it out loud, whatever works for you.
Yeah, cool. I'm still feeling that same kind of tightness. I think beneath that there's like a little bit of pain.
And thank that pain for showing up.
100%.
Yeah, these emotions all have valid messages that they're just trying to share. Did you get any words back when you asked, like, hey, what are you trying to share with me? Or did it just give you new access to that pain?
I think I didn't have any words come up. It just gave me new access to that kind of pain.
Great. Well, let's see if we can figure out what that pain and that resistance might have in store. So what does anything happen if you test I can't fail?
I can't fail. Yeah, I think again it's like a tightness, like almost a a constriction in my gut. I'll test that one more time. I can't fail. I also feel like a tightness in my chest as well.
Tightness in my gut and chest. Constriction. Is there any way you would shift the language of that to make it make even more sense to you? I'm not allowed to fail. Failure is not an option.
I'm not allowed to fail. Failure is not an option. Yeah, I don't think those two resonate with me in the same way. Maybe if I fail, the people that rely on me will be disappointed in me. I definitely feel that one, like in my gut, like fear of disappointing people around me because of failure, I think is a big one.
That's huge. And that's what I was seeking is, what are some of the other roots inside of this belief system? So there's a sense that if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed. Gotcha. Okay. So folks, you can see how we're starting to map together a proper belief system, and it makes sense why there would be fear associated with failure. If you think that, if I fail, people who rely on me will be disappointed. I can't fail. Failure means my future is ruined. There's going to be some resistance around failure. So thank you so much for your openness, Yaz. And is there anything else that's tied to that resistance around failure?
Let me think.
Take your time.
If I fail, I am not enough. That one resonates with me on a gut level as well.
Brilliant.
Like, I think there's also a feeling of like, oh, I need to prove myself.
So that's another sense that we can play with as well and clear out. What happens if you test, I need to prove myself?
I need to prove myself. I don't think it resonates quite as strongly as the others, but it's still kind of there.
Got it. And so what's cool is that you could say that makes less sense to me. Right?
I love that.
Yeah. And it's actually true. It makes less sense to you because when we say
100%.
sense, we mean that sense, that logical, rational analysis of, is this true? But we also mean the feelings, the sensations that are triggered by the language in the body. That's what it means to make sense. So we have a pretty good little tree, a little belief system with some roots and some branches around failure. Are you open to taking a look at success?
Yeah, sure.
Brilliant. So for this, I have a little exercise that we can do to help tap into the emotion of that resistance. I want you to envision in your mind's eye, and you can close your eyes for this portion, envision a week of just radical, amazing success after success after success. And it's like, wow. To whatever point or degree that success starts to become uncomfortable. And let me know when you're tapped into whatever that resistance or discomfort is around success.
I have a few things that come up for that.
Excellent. What are they?
I think there's like like a feeling of I'm afraid of being too overwhelmed with abundance and opportunities and like having to deal with all these things coming my way and having to ignore things and saying no. And like, I know it's a very high quality problem, but there's some kind of fear around that. And then there's also, well, what if I'm really successful and then I lose it all? Like, how am I going to rebuild back up? Like, I put in all this work. And then again, I guess that ties into failure as well. And then there's also, what was that? Yeah. I think, yeah, just like this fear of like, if I have all this success, how am I able to sustain it all? And I think it's interesting, right? Because different success means different things to different people, right? And I think true success is reaching that place of fulfillment. It's not necessarily all these external things. But there's definitely that within that, like, what if I, like, how am I gonna sustain this success? Or just something, some stuff like that, I think initially.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's a pretty common sense to have that, hey, if I'm really successful, like, what if I lose it all? And it strikes me that if that were to be cleared, then maybe that answers the question of how can I sustain it all? If I'm no longer afraid that I'll lose it all, it seems natural that I would just sustain it. So my question is, what happens if you test Yaz? If I'm successful, I'll lose it all.
If I'm successful, I'll lose it all. I definitely feel like pain, like an intensity in my gut for that. And like
If I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed.
If I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed. Yeah, I feel like a tightness in my chest.
Thank you. And notice how those are two very different sensations. To me, that speaks that they probably tie back to different memories. This stuff is very, very fascinating when you get into like the nerdy nitty gritty of it. Okay. So there's a sense that true success is fulfillment. And is that how you intend to look at success? I think that, to me, that sounds like a healthy version of it, as opposed to like success is making lots of money. You know, if that were true for you, there would be an opportunity to clear that in this session. But how do you feel about your relationship to success itself?
Yeah, I would definitely like to frame success as fulfillment. Fulfillment in all areas of life, and not thinking, oh, I have to be the best at making money, or I have to be, you know, the best at this particular skill, but just like, yeah, just true fulfillment.
Yeah.
Or I have to make this one project really successful. Yeah.
Right, because then that's a benchmark that you can actually feel and experience, rather than a moving goalpost of making more money, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Great. The last thing I'm curious to test is, if I'm successful, I won't sustain it.
Sure. If I'm successful, I won't sustain it. Yeah, that's another gut feeling in the gut.
All right. We have a really amazing list of beliefs and senses to process through. And I think that it might be most helpful to start with the failure stuff and then migrate our way gracefully through the success.
Beautiful. Let's do it.
Amazing. All right. So I'll briefly explain what the sovereign mind method entails for those who are listening for the first time. These senses have 3 hooks into the brain. When we say I can't fail, notice that it's triggering an emotional sense. There's tightness in my gut. There's chest constriction. The emotions are actually one of the most important senses that you have to clear in order to move beyond these old beliefs or these old senses. So there's E for emotions. Next up is I for images. So Morty Leftco was a genius, and he figured out that you need to see it to believe it. And if you realize that you never saw that this stuff was true with your own 2 eyes, you no longer believe it, because you basically can decouple the images that are in your mind as memories from the meaning of I can't fail, I'm not enough, I need to prove myself, whatever the things are. So when you unhook the images and you unhook the emotions from this language, it quite literally stops making sense to you. And then the last one, which I like to start with first because it's the easiest, is logical sense. So if these things are resonating and they make logical sense to the person, we can do some compassionate reframing to help the logical sense just ploof, go away. So that's typically where we begin, right? And another funny thing is if you spell it out, logic, images, emotions, LIE, you could say that these senses are tied into our system with lies. So let's start dispelling some lies.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. Were there any specific like memories or instances where like that sense of I can't fail was really strong for you?
Yeah, I really felt that a lot growing up with school, especially
Mm-hmm.
just because it's like if you want to be, just this narrative of, oh, if you want to be successful, you need to do well at school, because if you don't do well at school, you're not going to get into a really good university. And if you don't get into a really good university, you won't have the best job prospects, which means you'll make less money, you'll have less opportunities for, your life, for vacation, for family, for whatever it is, wherever that is. And that is definitely some pressure that I felt, that it was almost like, oh, the entire rest of my whole future of like the decades of my life from 20 onwards hinge on being successful at school. At least that was the narrative and the belief.
Totally. And I'm really glad that we get to talk about this because I feel like a lot of people resonate with that. I certainly had that exact same perspective at different points growing up throughout school. So I want to introduce a couple of new possibilities here through a lens of compassion. And I want to ask, Yas, could it be possible that your raw intelligence, your raw persistence, your raw creativity are three traits that are yours to keep no matter what you do in life?
That is definitely possible.
Heaven, yes. Okay. Knowing that those traits are yours to keep no matter what you do, could it be possible that those traits are ultimately what can lead you to become successful by however you define it? Your intelligence, your creativity, your persistence.
That is 100% possible.
Great. I just want to double check. That was in fact possible when you were 12, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Just wanted to double check that. All right. So there are a lot of adults that were really convinced that there is one way to become successful. And that's the way that was described to us when we were going through the public school paradigm. Could it be possible that there are examples of really successful people who shared your gifts, your traits, and they didn't go to school and they were still just fine, if not very happy and successful and fulfilled?
That is 100% possible.
Rad. That's great news. So we now know your success is intrinsic to you. And we now know that there's other ways besides school that other people who have had your intrinsic traits have found success. So at least in terms of the public school, going to college, get the great job, the high paying, etc., that whole paradigm, there's that old sense, I can't fail. But could it be possible that the adults in those environments just wanted you to pursue success in a certain way that they thought genuinely would lead to a good outcome for you?
That is absolutely possible.
1000%. Is adults having good intentions and trying to guide children through one way of being successful, does that mean that there are no other ways of being successful?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So let's say hypothetically that you, quote, I don't even want to use the word failed. Let's say you opted out of that system, which this isn't your story, right? This happens to be my story, but let's put on a little hypothetical cap. If you had, could it be possible that you'd still be successful by your own definition?
Very possible, for
Totally.
sure.
So then let's take it all the way back, full circle. Failure means my future is ruined. Is that the only possibility? Or if you would have opted out of the school system, could it be possible that you would have had a perfectly bright future, just in a different way?
It's totally possible that I could have had a different kind of bright future.
Beautiful. All right. Well, that's good news. So I want to ask the question now. Did you ever see with your own two eyes as you were going through the school system, failure means my future is ruined at any point?
Like the words?
Yeah, I'll give some coaching for folks in the audience. This part of the process, the whole purpose of it, it's kind of like a game. Here's what's true. Meaning doesn't exist in three-dimensional space. Period. It doesn't exist in three-dimensional space. When you scan through your memory and try to find the meaning that you gave it and you fail because it was actually never there, it decouples the images from the meaning because you realize, oh, I just made up the meaning to explain what happened. Duh. Right. So yeah, I want you to look around. Did you ever see the meaning, like the words floating in 3D space? Failure means my future is ruined? Or did you see people behaving at school and events unfolding?
Yeah, I did not see those words anywhere. And I just saw people behaving and events unfolding.
Okay, that's cool. Like, really, look, did you ever see failure means my future is ruined? Look all the places that it maybe possibly could have been.
I can't find it anywhere, Nick.
I believe you. So then here's the next question. Did you ever feel that failure means my future is ruined?
Yeah, I definitely felt that, for sure.
Totally. And so thank you so much. We're going to give another brief pause to coach the audience. Our brains do something that's very interesting. We couple together language with feelings. So I used to think that I felt not good enough at some point. When I scan back through my memories and I ask myself, what did I actually feel in my body? The answer is something like fear and tension and sadness in my chest, in my solar plexus, maybe some anxiety in my stomach. Those are actual emotions and sensations that I am capable as a human being of feeling and experiencing. Not good enough is actually not a feeling. And what we're about to walk through is decoupling feelings from language. So can you tap into, Yaz, the feeling of failure means my future is ruined?
Sure.
What did that feel like?
Very scary.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like a lot of pressure, like a huge amount of pressure. Very anxiety inducing, and this big feeling of like need, like I need to make it work, I need to make it happen, I need to do this. And
where did that pressure and anxiety live in your body?
So I'm feeling stuff in my gut now, but the pressure and anxiety definitely lived in my chest for sure, and definitely affected my breathing as well.
Got it. A little bit more shallow.
Yeah. I developed asthma around that time as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, stay connected to that feeling of fear in my gut, pressure and anxiety in my chest, shallow breathing, the need to make it happen. This is a sincere question. It's a yes or no question, and it's not a trick question. Was that fear in your gut the exact same thing as the English words failure means cupcake dolphin, my future is ruined?
No.
No, definitely not. Okay, great. Was that anxiety in your chest, that shallow breathing with the pressure, the exact same thing as the words failure means my future is rainy like a lovely flamingo?
No.
No. Okay. That's good. What about that sense of compulsion? I need to make it happen. I need to make it happen. Was that the same thing as failure means my future is ruined?
No.
No. Okay. And if at any point you're ever tempted to say yes, please just let me know. But sincerely, was that fear in your gut, that pressure and anxiety in the chest, was that the same thing as future my means failure ruined is?
Uh, no.
Okay, definitely not. What about failure means my future is ruined?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure.
Aha. Aha. Here's a question. Is there any part of you that's afraid to let go of failure means my future is ruined?
Yeah, I think it's kind of around the uncertainty, right? If you
Mm,
have a path that you have been told is the path for success, or that you think you know works and this is the way
mhm,
that things are done, as soon as you fail at that path that your brain perceives to be the truth because of what your environment taught you,
mm.
then a kind of then there's so much uncertainty of like, oh well, what do I do now? Like, what am I supposed to do? How do I know? How can I find something else that works? This feeling of like scariness, uncertainty, lack of control, like not being able to control your future and have that certainty.
Thank you. It's really important that this part came up to share that. And folks, whenever there's a part of you that feels like letting go of a belief is a threat to your safety, it'll usually come up right at the sensory decoupling process. And so this is always an invitation to get curious and compassionate towards a part of you. So in this case, Yaz, I am curious. Do you have any sense of how old this part of you is?
I think it's pretty old. I think it goes down to probably even I don't know, maybe when I was like 10 or 11, like maybe
Right.
before then.
Uh-huh.
But as soon as I entered quote unquote senior school, that was definitely when it kind of reinforced. And then I think it
Mm.
got really reinforced when I was like 13, 14.
Got it. Okay. So what's interesting is that when we have these younger parts of ourselves, they get kind of like trapped in the past. And something that can be really helpful and healing is to just update that part on what's true for you now. Because I think that if you just lovingly updated this 10-year-old, maybe 13-year-old part of you, like, hey, I got great news. We actually made it all the way through university. Like we did the thing and we're safe now. I think that it would find it helpful to know that, and it would be able to relax, and it would be willing to let go of this belief for you.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Are you open to just taking a minute to get connected to that 10-year-old and just share
Yeah,
like, hey, I actually did the college thing and now I'm doing this.
sure. You want me to say
Yeah.
it?
Whatever feels most comfortable for you. If you'd rather say it in your mind's eye, then we can fast forward in the podcast or whatever.
Cool. I'll think about it.
Hmm.
Wow, that's really powerful.
Hmm. Yeah. How was that?
I can definitely feel the sense of safety and security, and I can feel the emotions in my gut kind of releasing. And just like that, just thinking about that older version of myself, the younger, whatever, that younger version of myself, is just really powerful to give her that update.
Yes, good. Okay. And I have a question for this part. It sounds like that she was seeking to have some needs for safety and security, maybe confidence and autonomy, some other needs like that met. Is it open to there being a new way to meet those needs besides fearing failure?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
That's excellent. What other role would it like to play in your system if it could let go of failure means my future is ruined?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure. If this part were able to let go of the burden of, quote, failure means my future is ruined, end quote, what would it like to do instead of carry that burden?
It would like to fully immerse itself in the present and in exploration and in controlling what it can control, which is the present moment, and letting go of what it can't control, which is anything that might happen in the future.
That's incredible. And Yaz, are you open to that part fulfilling that new role for you?
Definitely.
Great. Let it know and then ask it, hey, do you feel safe now in letting go of this old belief failure means my future is ruined?
Yep.
Incredible. Thank that part, send it some love and some gratitude.
Amazing. You're a master at this, Nick.
Oh, thank you. Yes. All right. Well, let's tap back into that feeling so that we can allow the emotional decoupling. Tap back into that fear in the gut, that pressure and anxiety in the chest, shallow breathing, the need to make it happen. Failure means my future is ruined. And let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
Thank you. Sincere question. It's not a trick question. Is that fear in the gut, that pressure and anxiety in the chest, the exact same thing as the English words failure means my future is ruined?
No,
No. Okay. Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Great. And does that actually feel decoupled for you now?
In most part, I think there's still a little bit left,
Let's do
but
another.
a lot of it has been decoupled.
Shine the light of your awareness on that last little part. Is it another word that needs to be cleared?
I don't know. I just feel the emotion.
Yeah, so you're allowed to still feel the emotion. The
Mm,
important thing is, does your brain now feel like the words and the emotion are two different things?
right,
That's what's important.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Good. So one last pass. Fear and pressure in the gut. Is that the same thing as failure means my future is ruined?
No,
Is anxiety in the chest the same thing as failure means my future is ruined?
no,
What about that compulsive, that need to make it happen? Is that the same thing as failure means my future is ruined?
no,
Is any of this the exact same thing as I can't fail?
no.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Great. Is any of this the exact same thing as if I fail, I'm not enough?
no,
Okay. Is any of this the exact same thing as if I fail, the people who rely on me will be ducks? Okay. What about what about disappointed?
I still feel that.
Is that a different feeling?
I think it's like a heavy gut feeling.
Can you tap into the heavy gut feeling?
Sure.
Let me know when you're tapped all the way in.
Okay.
How would you describe this feeling? Heaviness in the gut. What else?
Yeah, kind of almost sad,
Hmm.
or I guess sad, disappointment, guilt, definitely. And yeah, I think those are the main ones.
Pretty much all in the gut, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you stay connected to the heaviness, the sadness, the disappointment, the guilt, and the gut, is that the exact same thing as the word people?
No.
Definitely not. What about the word disappointment?
It feels that way. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here's little slip up here is the disappointment is one of the sensations that's in the gut, and disappointed is one of the words that's in the belief. So we'll isolate it. Is that heaviness and sadness the same thing as the words, if I fail, the people who rely on me will move to Jerusalem?
No.
Definitely not. Is that heaviness and sadness the same thing as if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed?
um Probably not.
But it's not certain, right? It still feels
It's
like
not
it's
certain. Like intellectually I know no, but I don't
it
feel
doesn't
that way.
exactly. So here's a question. Is there a part that doesn't feel safe in letting go of that?
Yeah, I guess it might be a part of, it's either like a people pleasing part of me
Mhm.
or a part of my ego.
All parts in some sense are part of the whole self, and the whole self has an ego. So what bad thing is this part of you afraid might happen if you were to let it go? Is it afraid that you will disappoint people?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Think that part. One way to avoid disappointing people is to tie failure up with disappointing people, to make sure that you fail as little as possible so that you disappoint people as little as possible. But I want to ask this part, could it be possible that there are other ways to avoid people's disappointment?
Yeah, definitely.
Totally. Is this part open to learning other ways to avoid disappointment?
Definitely.
Yeah. Is this part open to letting go of fear of failure to avoid disappointment?
Yeah.
Thank you, part. That was so easy. Yeah.
Amazing.
Party is a rock star. Okay, great. So tap back into that heaviness and sadness. Is that heaviness and sadness actually the same thing as on me disappointed rely people if I fail the only?
No.
Definitely not. What about if I fail the people who rely on me will be disappointed?
No.
Correct. Is that guilt in the gut the same thing as if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed?
It feels that way.
Uh-huh. So is that guilt in the gut the same thing as the English word written on a napkin, disappointed?
No.
Okay. Is it the same thing as rely on me will be?
No.
Is it the same thing as if I fail the people who?
No.
So then is it the same thing as if I fail, the people who rely on me will?
No.
So is it the same thing as if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed?
No.
Definitely not. Okay. So what about that sense of disappointment that you felt in the gut? Is that sense of disappointment the same thing as the word disappointed written in Sanskrit on a billboard in India?
No.
If I move the billboard to France and it's written in English, that sense of disappointment in your gut, is it the same thing as that word?
No.
Okay. So that sense of disappointment, was it the same thing as the words? If I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed?
No.
Amazing. Okay. Does all of that feel fairly decoupled for you?
Yeah.
Amazing. You
Yeah.
did the thing.
There we go.
Yeah.
Being such an excellent guide.
Yeah. My sincere pleasure. So folks, Yaz, are you open to explaining kind of like how you notice? Because I can personally feel it in my brain when the emotions are finally going. How do you experience it? I'm actually curious to know.
I start to feel the emotions dissipate
Mm-hmm,
in my gut.
mm-hmm,
And I know that they're not dissipated fully. I'm still feeling a
mm-hmm,
bit of that guilt and
mm-hmm,
disappointment right now. But when I start to feel that dissipate, that definitely is a big signal. And then when you play these mind games and turn the words into some like rubbish or
silly. Yeah.
like gobbledygook, something
Yeah.
totally silly,
Yeah.
it tells my brain that it's really silly to think that these words mean this when those words don't mean that, and it's just words.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like when I start to laugh at how silly it is,
Mm-hmm.
it almost tells my brain that, oh yeah, this is silly.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Okay. So I just want to check in, retest some of these old senses to see how they've shifted after doing that decoupling process. And I like to introduce a couple funny things just to set a baseline. So what happens if you test or failure means Spain is no longer a country?
Failure means Spain is no longer a country.
Failure means blue is red.
Failure means blue is red.
Failure means my future is ruined.
Failure means my future is ruined. Yeah, the same stuff doesn't come up as before.
The question is that nonsense? Or is there still any residual feeling left whatsoever?
It just felt like this is total nonsense.
Boom. Victory. Yeah. Yay.
Amazing.
Claps for Yaz. Oh, that's so great. What happens if you test, I can't flap my wings?
I can't flap my wings.
I can't fail.
I can't fail. Yeah, that also just felt really silly.
Right. Nonsense. Okay. So we didn't even directly address if I fail, I'm not enough. But what happens now if you test it?
If I fail, I'm not enough. I think there's a tiny bit of stuff there, but it's not very strong.
So notice how the intensity of that sense is diminished when you collapse different belief structures that are associated with it. So if you work very efficiently, folks, you can find the core toxic roots and you clear out those roots, and it'll simultaneously clear other beliefs, other senses. In this case, we didn't clear it, but we reduced it by 80% or something like this. So we'll get to spend a minute and clear that out because I'm sure it's something tiny. And the last one, the holy grail, is if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed. Does that make any sense?
You want me to test it?
Yeah, please.
If I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed. I think it's a lot of it is lifted. I think it's still there minutely.
So here's a question. Did you ever see with your own two eyes, if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed?
No. I think the closest thing I've seen is like, oh, like something around like letting others down, like letting people down, like letting your team down. That's probably the closest that I've seen.
Okay. Is that during a sports context?
Yeah, you know what, potentially during a sports context, but I think also just like in just general team projects at school.
Ah, okay. So look around at some of those projects that you were doing. Do you see anywhere that kids are disappointed by your failure, or do you see kids with different behavioral expressions?
I see kids with different behavioral expressions.
Great. Do you see, if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed, or do you just see kids different behavioral expressions over time?
I just see kids with different behavioral expressions over time.
Okay. What happens now if you test, if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed?
If I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed. It's still there. You know what? I think it comes also down to parental disappointment.
Okay.
I'm realizing now.
Totally.
Mm.
Just scan through the environment that you grew up in. Did you ever see it, or did you feel it?
I definitely felt it.
Ah, okay, perfect. And what did that feeling feel like?
Again, it felt like this heaviness, just this heaviness, this guilt, this shame, and like sadness in my gut area.
Got it. So pretty much identical sensations, but from an earlier chapter in life.
Right.
And so in principle, we're always seeking to clear these senses from the earliest life chapter available. So this is key that we found this. So go ahead and think back to one of those times where you felt, if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed, and feel into those same feelings when you were younger. And let me know when you're there.
Okay. I'm there.
Thank you. Okay. All these sensations and feelings in your body, are they the exact same thing as the words, if I fail?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Is there another part that's afraid to let go of this?
Not that I can think of right now.
Great. Then I'll break it down further. That heaviness, guilt, shame, and sadness in the gut. Is it the same thing as the letter L?
No.
Okay. Is it the same thing as the letters AFIL?
No.
What about IFIFAIL?
No.
Okay. What about IFIFAILTHEPEOPLEWILBDDISAPPOINTED?
No.
Okay, definitely. Shame and guilt and sadness in your gut is not the same as that. Okay, good. Is that heaviness, that guilt, that shame, that sadness the same thing as those letters turned into words? If I fail, comma?
No.
Okay. What about the people who rely on me?
No.
What about will be disappointed?
No.
So those feelings, those sensations, are they the same thing as the words? If I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Well, heaven, yes. Good.
Having yes.
Yeah. So did you feel those words or did you feel some sensations?
I felt some sensations.
Totally. And that, Yasmina, is what is actually true for you in your life. And the good news for everyone listening is it's not possible to feel I'm not good enough. We feel feelings and we feel sensations. Our brains link them together. And now we know how to unlink them. And it's that easy.
It's amazing.
So now, finally, what happens if you test? If I fail, dump trucks take over the world.
I don't know how you come up with all of these things.
Me neither.
If I fail, dump trucks will take over the world.
If I fail, the Archbishop of Islam will be happy.
If I fail, the Archbishop of Islam will be happy.
And finally, if I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed.
If I fail, the people who rely on me will be disappointed. I don't feel it.
Great. We have achieved nonsense.
Amazing. I love it.
Oh, me too. Me too. All right. Let's play some games around success.
Let's do it.
All right. So first, there's this kind of like bridge between the failure and the success, which is I need to prove myself. And my sincere curiosity is, where did you learn that?
I definitely learned that from the school environment, and just having to do well at school. Your reports are written about you. You have to, make sure you can do the homework and show you can do the homework, and then you've got to make sure you do well in the exams, and that will affect either your ego or something tangible in the future, or how others see you. So I definitely felt that in a school environment.
That makes tons of sense. So, okay. You're in a school environment, you had to do well so that there's good reports written about you, so that you're making the progress, et cetera, et cetera. And one way to look at that experience is I need to prove myself. I wonder if it could be possible that it was helpful to work hard in that environment, but it being helpful to work hard, is that the same thing as needing to prove yourself?
100%.
Right, just to be clear.
Oh wait.
Yeah. Just to be clear. Having to work hard is A. Needing to prove yourself is B. Is A equal to B, or are those two different things?
They're two different things.
That's what I was looking for. Okay, cool. What else is possible if you look back at your school environment besides I need to prove myself?
It's possible that everyone's just on their own path and everyone's just doing their own thing, and comparing myself to others doesn't really mean anything.
That strikes me as very possible. Cool. So I need to prove myself. Is that the only possibility, or are there quite a few others?
There are quite a few others.
That's good news. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look around that school environment, did you ever actually see with your own two eyes, I need to prove myself?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I believe you. Did you ever feel I need to prove myself?
Yeah, I did feel it. I even have another context in which I think I need to prove myself feels stronger.
What's that?
Which is in like a social context, which is
Ah.
like I need to show that I'm a certain way so I can get validation from other people, and then people will like me and want to be my friend. that's like even stronger, I feel.
Thank you for surfacing that. Let's introduce some new possibilities there. Could it be possible, Yaz, that rather than proving yourself, what's really true is if you just show your authentic self, that people will naturally appreciate you?
That is entirely possible.
That's my genuine sense of knowing you, for what it's worth.
Amazing.
Yeah. Could it also be possible that rather than needing to prove yourself, that you've actually already amassed enough accolades to quote unquote be proven? Is that also a possibility?
Entirely possible, Nick.
Okay, rad. So even in these social contexts, is I need to prove myself the only possibility, or there are many other ways that you could show up?
There are many other ways that I could show up.
And that's beautiful. Okay. When you see yourself in different social contexts, do you actually see with your own two eyes, I need to prove myself? Or do you see people at different networking events and so on?
I just see people engaging in different events, parties, social activities.
Mm-hmm. Now, at any of those parties or earlier, I want to check, did you feel I need to prove myself?
Oh yeah, I definitely felt that.
Great. And so what did that feel like?
Just this sense of like need, this sense of desperation for validation, or yeah, just kind of like this like I don't even know how to describe it. Just like
You're doing great.
just like yeah, just feeling like I need to, I have to, like just feeling that.
Yeah. So stay tapped into, I love the way you just described it. Stay tapped into that that I need to energy, that feeling. And let me know when you're connected.
Yep.
Sincere question. It's not a trick question. Is that sense of need, that sense of is that the exact same thing as the words I need to pogo stick?
No.
Okay. Is it the same thing as the words prove myself need to I?
No.
Is it the same thing as the words I need to prove myself?
No.
Okay. You sure?
I am 90% sure.
Okay, great. So let's get to 100. That sense of need, that desperation for validation. Is that the same thing as the words I need to prove myself? No. Is it the same thing as prove myself? I need to prove myself.
No, but I'm very excited for your X Factor audition.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So sincerely, there's some words on a piece of paper. They're written really pretty in cursive. I need to prove myself. Did you literally feel that piece of paper in your body?
No.
Okay. Did you feel I need to prove myself, or did you feel a sense of need and a sense of desperation?
I felt a sense of need and a sense of desperation.
And does that seem decoupled for you now, the feelings and the language?
Mostly.
Yeah. So when I say decoupled, I want to add one little point. I don't mean did the feelings entirely vanish. Something that's really cool is that with this process, you're not like overruling or overriding your past experience. You can still access the actual emotions that you felt because those were real and those existed. My sense of what's happening is that we're just diffusing them. We're uncoupling them from these super emotionally charged words, right? So for me in my brain, I almost notice like right? Like I feel like, oh, that's not the same thing. Huh. So when I ask you, does that seem decoupled to you? I don't mean, are you completely emotionally clear of all things? I'm just asking, does your brain recognize that A is not equal to B?
Can I test it?
Yeah, please.
What's the phrase again?
I need to prove myself.
Right. I need to prove myself. Yeah, I think that's decoupled.
Beautiful. Okay, there we go. Love it. All right. So let's play some quick games about success. If I'm successful, I'll lose it all. Where did you learn that?
I actually have no idea. What do you think?
Take your time.
Yeah, I can't really think of a very striking example of where I learned that, except maybe just seeing examples of people making loads of money and then losing all of their money, or you know, having loads of dating success and then losing all their dating success, or becoming a very successful entrepreneur and then going to prison, or just seeing examples of that stuff.
Yes, and this is a great teaching point. So thank you for this, Yaz, which is that, you know, these beliefs don't have to be formed through your own visceral experience. We do pick up beliefs through watching, you know, countless examples in our lives, through propaganda, through messages that are repeated to us, etc. So this is a really useful illustration of how simple it can be to clear a sense like this. So here's the question. Could it be possible if you're successful, you'll keep it all?
It's entirely possible.
Right. Could it be possible that if you're successful, you'll keep most of it? You might lose some of it trying other things, but you'll learn throughout the entire process. So who gives a fuck?
That is 100% possible.
Right. And it doesn't strike me that either of those are really terrible possibilities. It seems like those are both win-win possibilities to me. So the old story of if I'm successful, I'll lose it all. Is that the only possibility for you, or are there plenty of other beautiful possibilities?
There are plenty of other beautiful possibilities.
Wonderful. Did you see if I'm successful, I'll lose it all? Or did you just see a bunch of people making money and losing it?
I just saw a bunch of people making money and losing it.
Okay. Like really scan through any possible example of the dating of the entrepreneur in jail or whatever, all that stuff. Did you ever see if I'm successful, I'll lose it all?
Nope.
Okay. Did you ever feel that?
I definitely felt the fear.
Okay. You can tap into that fear and let me know when you're tapped.
Okay.
Great. Is that fear the same thing as the words, if I'm successful, I'll become a dolphin?
No.
Okay. Same thing as if I'm successful, I'll lose it all?
Intellectually, no.
Thank you for being honest. Okay. Is it the same thing as the words successful I'm, if lose it all, I'll?
No.
What about if I'm successful, full, I'll lose it all?
No.
Okay, definitely not. That fear in your stomach is not the same thing as that. I agree with you. So is that fear in the stomach the same thing as the words, if I'm successful, bingo, I'll lose it all?
No.
What about plainly, if I'm successful, I'll lose it all?
No.
There we go. And are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right, heaven, yes. Great work. So now what happens if you test if I'm successful, I'll lose it all?
If I'm successful, I'll lose it all. Yeah, it doesn't come up.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
Yeah.
Totally. Great. All right. So what about that old sense of if I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed?
Yeah, I definitely do feel that.
Okay. Where'd you learn it?
I think I've learned it twofold. So I've learned it from my own experience, to where when I've had success with different things in the past, I'm like overwhelmed by a bunch of new challenges that are even more difficult that I now have to overcome, and overwhelmed by too many opportunities that, or like to where that I can't keep track of it, and I get frustrated because I feel like I lack control. And then things fall through the cracks, or people get disappointed, or I need to turn things down, and then I have to think about all of this stuff. So then there's that from my own experience. And then it's just I don't know, I think it's sort of, again, seeing other people who've had loads of success and seeing how they are quote unquote overwhelmed with an abundance of things, and it just sounds very it sounds equally great and equally frustrating.
I see. This all makes sense to me, Yaz. I mean, you've had success in different areas in the past, and genuinely back then you felt overwhelmed by new challenges that are more difficult. There's too many opportunities. I can't keep track of it all. That leads you to feeling frustrated, like you lack control, and some things slip through the cracks. And one way to look at that is, man, if I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed. But just want to introduce a new possibility. Could it also be possible that the next time that you're successful, to delegate stuff?
Yeah, that is totally possible.
That's good news. Could it also be possible that if you're successful, it just causes you to expand and grow?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. What else is possible besides I'll be overwhelmed?
It's possible that I'll get amazing opportunities that I would never have gotten before.
That's a pretty distinct possibility.
Mm.
Totally. When you saw other people with loads of success being overwhelmed, could it be possible that it wasn't the success that they're overwhelmed with, but rather the lack of systems, the lack of process? And what they're really overwhelmed by is the number of open loops in their consciousness.
Oh, 100%.
Right. And is having way too many open loops in your mind the exact same thing as being successful?
No.
So is the problem really success, or is the problem really having way too many open loops that leads people to feel overwhelmed?
The problem is having way too many open loops that lead people to feel overwhelmed.
That makes sense to me.
Same.
Great. So did you ever see with your own two eyes, if I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed?
I feel like I did, but I know I never saw the words.
What did you see?
I think I just again saw a lack of structure and a lack of systems or delegation and a lack of correct prioritization and a bunch of open loops.
Mm-hmm. And did you feel some frustration?
Definitely, yeah.
What else did you feel?
I think, yeah, frustration. I felt annoyed. I felt overwhelmed. I felt a lack of control. I felt a fear of letting things slip through the cracks and missing important things. And I also felt a fear of disappointing others.
I want to take a magnifying glass and highlight that quote overwhelmed feeling and get really clear on what the physiological sensations are. of that feeling. Because
Okay.
overwhelmed is a label that is put on something like, I feel heat and tension in my chest, right? So I want you to put a magnifying glass and just organically explore, what is that actual physiological sensation?
There is a kind of dull pain in like my upper stomach or solar plexus area. And then there is a feeling of almost asthma and chest constriction. And there is also a very big feeling of heat in my solar plexus, and sort of like in my chest.
Some
Yeah. My dentist would be so proud.
Right. That's great. Okay. So stay connected to that dull pain and heat in the stomach and solar plexus, the asthma-like chest constriction plus Question. Is that the exact same thing as the word overwhelmed?
No.
No. Is dull pain and heat in your upper stomach the exact same thing as the word overwhelm mouse?
No.
Okay. What about overwhelmed?
Mostly no.
Right. Mostly no. So dull pain and heat in the upper stomach. Is that the same thing as the word if I'm successful?
No.
Is it the same thing as the words successful? I'll be wailing, wailing, wailing all day.
No.
Okay, I believe you. Is dull pain and heat in the upper stomach the same thing as if I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed?
No.
Okay. Is asthma chest constriction? Is that the same thing as overwailing?
No.
Is it the same thing as overwhelm mouse?
No.
Is it the same thing as the word overwhelmed?
No.
Okay. That asthma like chest constriction. Is that the same thing as if I'm successful?
No.
What about if I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed?
No.
Great. You sound pretty confident. So I believe you. That makes sense that A is not equal to B. So what happens if you test if I'm successful, 2 and 2 make 5?
If I'm successful, 2 and 2 make 5.
Okay, nonsense.
Yeah.
If I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed.
If I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed. Yeah, it feels like mostly there. It's like 90% there.
Okay. You want to shine the light of your awareness on that last little 10%?
Yeah. I feel like again, like that dull kind of pain in my upper stomach, and yeah, like a part of me still believes that that's true.
Is that part of you afraid of letting go of that?
That is possible.
No, I just want you to sincerely check, like ask that part of you, like, hey, do you feel any fear in letting go of this?
There's nothing concrete that comes up right now.
Okay, that's good. Let's try to give it just another pass over. So you mentioned that dull pain and the heat in the upper stomach specifically. So since your question, is that the same thing as the words successful I'll be if I'm overwhelmed?
No.
Okay. What about success, success, overwhelm, overwhelm, success, success? Oh yeah.
No.
No. Okay. So is dull pain and heat in your upper stomach truly the exact same thing as the words if I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed?
No.
Are you sure?
Mostly.
It's still like that last little 10%. Okay. Interesting. So let's get real clear. Is it the same thing as if?
No.
What about I'm?
No.
What about successful?
No.
Are you sure about those?
I'm sure about the first two. I'm not sure about successful.
Ah, okay. Let's break it down. Is that dull pain and heat in the upper stomach the exact same thing as the letters CCESS?
No.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Okay, great. What about SUCC?
No.
What about ESSFUL?
No.
What about SUCCESSFUL?
No.
Okay. So is that dull pain the same thing as the word successful?
No.
Are you sure now?
Yes.
Ah, good. What about the word overwhelmed?
Is it the same thing as overwhelmed?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Oh, great. What about the word over?
No.
What about whelmed?
No.
What about overwhelmed?
I'm still not sure.
Great. OVERWHELMED?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Ah, okay. What about, once again, overwhelmed?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Great. So that dull pain, heat in the upper stomach, was it ever actually the same thing as if I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed?
No.
Okay, cool. What happens if you test it?
If I'm successful, I'll be overwhelmed. I believe it like 95%.
Do you mean it's cleared 95% or is it still 95% true for you?
Oh, it's like cleared 95%.
So what's true is that sometimes when you clear these things, that last 5% takes a few minutes, sometimes even a few hours to fully dissipate from your system.
Okay.
So the good news is that we've cleared some really, really remarkable stuff today. And I'm so thankful. Like, thank you so much, Yaz, for coming on the show, for being my first guest on the planet. Ah,
Wow, that is an honor.
thank you.
I had no idea. That's really awesome. And
Yeah.
it's an absolute honor to be part of this. And
Yeah.
I feel a lot lighter.
Good. Oh my gosh. Yes, please share if there's anything else you'd like to share with the audience. I know we're running low on time or whatever, but yeah, how do you feel? How was this conversation for you? I'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, just real quick, I think it definitely exposed some blind spots for me and definitely made me think about certain things in terms of how I think about and feel about failure and success and where I've actually seen that in my life. It gave me a lot of clarity, and just the decoupling of the sensations from the words was really powerful. And when you realize that it's all just nonsense and silly and a lie, right? It's very funny, and it definitely makes me feel a lot lighter in my body.
That's wonderful. Well, Yaz, thank you so much for coming on the show. And yeah, we'll be curious to keep in touch and see how things unfold for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nick. It's been my pleasure, truly.
Mm.